Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Best Prepare for CBAP. I am your host, Marlena Lombardi, and on behalf of IIBA, thanks for joining us today. Today's webinar is a public event. It is designed to deliver practical resources for you as you continue to hone your skill set and deliver value within your organization. When you join IIBA, you become a member of an international association dedicated to developing and promoting the business analysis profession, with access to resources and community to support your development and career growth. At IIBA, we are all about uniting a community of professionals to create better business outcomes and to provide the tools to help you climb the ladder of success. And you being here today is a testament to just that. Today, our presenter is Ellen Mishra, who holds an ECBA, CCBA, and a CBAP, and who is the president at Adaptive US. Ellen has 24 plus years of professional experience in agile software development, requirements analysis, business analysis, and IT GRC. He has authored over 20 best-selling books on business analysis, as well as conducted over 200 workshops in business analysis, requirements management, agile software project management, and many more. Today, he's going to walk us through how to best prepare for IIBA's CBAP certification. We will hold a question and answer session at the end of the webinar for Ellen and Melissa Novielli, who's our product coordinator for IIBA, to answer any of your questions. So please enter your questions into the question box at any point during the presentation. Now, could you please help me welcome Ellen Mishra.
Thank you, Marlena. Do you hear me well?
Hear you loud and clear, Ellen. Okay,
thank you. So welcome everyone to the webinar. As Marlena said, I'm an interesting person to speak to many of my BA friends. I'm probably one of the very few persons who would have done all three available certifications from IIBA. I completed ECBA, I completed CCBA, and I completed CBAP. So today I'm going to talk to you not only my own experience, but what I have heard, listened to probably more than 200 CBAPs that I have worked with very closely. Many of them have been my past participants. Many of them have purchased my books, question banks. So it's an interesting topic to talk about, and let's see how we at least take back something from this session towards your journey for CBAP. Okay, before we begin, I would like to thank IIBA for providing us this opportunity. In fact, IIBA has been one of the foremost business analysis professional organization, as you may be aware. I started my business analyst career probably almost 25 years back now, and even we were not called business analysts those days. The good part is now we have a very well-defined body of knowledge, which I think many of you must have had a brief look or maybe at a deeper look as well. So BABOK has been a great resource for business analysts to kind of talk the common language. On top of it, IIBA has provided many other resources, which I think Marlena again pointed out. Once you are a member of IIBA, you get access to 300 plus books on business analysis, and that's something wonderful for any BA to have. In fact, many often I have recommended many people that the best investment that you can do as a BA, and if you're looking at the best return on investment, is to become a member of IIBA, because the amount of money that you pay, something between $55 to $125 across the globe, is peanuts compared to what you get out of the IIBA online library. On top of it, you of course have webinars and many other content which you can take advantage of. So I'm glad. I think we have now close to 30,000 members and hope the membership numbers will go up. Recently, IIBA had more than 10,000 professionals certified through IIBA, and I think number of CBAPs will touch 10,000 very soon. I think we are above 9,000 right now, and another 1,000 plus people should go through this certification this year. Okay. A lot of people also ask me, does certification make a great difference to one's career? I would say definitely yes. I have had many of my participants who could get a better job, a better role because they completed CBAP. And once you are a CBAP, your skills are considered as top of the league. So having a designation like CBAP would definitely add a lot of credibility to yourself. That's one part. The second part also I keep telling to many of my participants and BA friends is when you go through preparing for CBAP, the amount of knowledge that you would gather would be tremendous. Somebody can say, I have been doing BA work for 20 years. Will there be something new in BABOK? There are. The reason being, even if we do BA work for 20 years, maybe we are doing it in a particular domain, in a particular type of project. So there are aspects which we may not come across when we work. So when you go through a structured method like what is proposed in BABOK, the amount of learning you will have will be significant. So do not underestimate a method or a book just saying that I have 20 plus years of experience. It's not true. Coming down, I think all of us know about CBAP, and this is the most recognizable standard for BAs today. And of course, it is intended to address the needs of senior business analysts, people having more than 7,500 hours of BA experience, which roughly would translate to 5 years of work experience. I trust this year we would probably have CBATL, which is for even more senior BAs with about 10 years plus experience. In fact, I'm looking forward to having the CBATL degree because I have not been able to do any more because I have already completed all three. Now coming to the organization that I work with a company called Adaptive US. We are one of the premier EEP for IIBA. We have been offering IIBA programs almost for 6 years plus now. And we, of course, offer a lot of content help in the CBAP learning process. And today, if I count, I know for sure about 190 plus CBAPs whom we could track. There could be many others whom we could not simply track. So I think this is something all of I have been telling you. There's also a good program that we offer. We call it a success guarantee. In case for some reason you do not complete your certification in first time, we of course pay for your retake fees. So this is something as a matter of confidence we give because we know our failure rates have been significantly low. So it really doesn't make a huge difference to our business when we offer this promise or guarantee. And we, of course, have a lot of publications in BA area, including requirements engineering, plenty of question banks for all the three standards, and other knowledge areas as well. And we probably have completed 300 plus workshops, and more than 5,000 BAs have benefited from our work. Sorry, we also have a platform called Succeed, and there's a good news for all of you. I think today we made one simulation free on all standards. So if you log into platform, it's free, there's no charge. You get one full-length CBAP simulation, 120 questions divided among all 6 knowledge areas as per BABOK guideline, and then of course, case-based questions, scenario-based questions, all are there as part of the learning platform. Now, coming to the requirements of CBAP, I trust many of you would know, but let me just repeat it. The good part is there is no requirement on education, and this is something which is a change from our old method, where at least high school was expected. Now, in my personal opinion, I rarely came across participants who wouldn't have completed high school, but today I see that actually. And a lot of people have taken their initiative irrespective of their educational qualification. They are learning business analysis and they're performing a great role. And this is a good move that one should prove himself in the subject rather than just having a school degree or not. So that way it's a plus point. So even if you do not have a high school degree, you are still allowed to write all three exams, CCBA, ECBA, and CBAP. As we said, you need to have 7,500 hours of BA experience in the last 10 years, which is, I think, if you are performing a BA role, it's not very hard. 2, you need to have 900 hours of experience in 4 knowledge areas, which is, I trust, again, it's not very hard to achieve. Third thing, you need 2 references to vet your BA experience, and they can be your career manager, client, and or CBAP, and one of them must be current. That means the person should be contactable if IIBA would like to reach out to them. And then, of course, you need a 35-hour verifiable coursework, and there are many training organizations, including Adaptive, who provide this training to you. And then, of course, you need a signed code of conduct. I think one of the best things I love about IIBA is the membership benefits. That's what I have been telling to anyone. And in fact, even if people are not going for IIBA certification, still I tell them it's still worthwhile to become a member of IIBA. Whether you are taking a BCA certification or a IREP certification or a PMI PBA certification, still the value that you get out of IIBA membership is simply phenomenal. I have been a member of many other professional organizations as well, and no organization gives this much to its members. This is like incredible stuff. And then on top of it, you also get a $125 discount on your exam fees, which itself is a big value because your membership kind of nullifies your exam fee benefit. So if you're paying $125 membership fee, you get $125 discount on your exam fee. Now coming a little bit to the application process. So the handbook or the requirements for CBAP is very well laid out in IIBA website. You can go and check. And of course, I told you that the details are required. But we also created an application simulator in Excel, which kind of gives you an idea whether you are meeting the numbers, not meeting the numbers, what you can request your reference. All that has been put in the simulator. So let me show you the simulator. So give me a second. I will log into the portal and get you the simulator. So I trust it must be there for demo as well, but in case it is not there for demo, let me use a regular login. And if I go to study guides, we have the simulator here. So let me download the simulator. I'll just take 2 minutes on the simulator to see how the application simulator can help you in the application process. I trust it is free, but I'm not sure. I'll check it out. Okay. Sorry, yeah. We have given a README document which essentially tells you about the rules that IIBA would like you to follow. And there are some small tips in terms of what kind of dates you can take and all those kind of things. And then we also have given a snapshot of how the IIBA application looks like and how do you fill in each section. And for each section, we have given you a template, what IIBA application expects you to fill in. Then for professional development, how does it look like? What are the areas that it should cover? Make sure any training that you're taking cover the entire BABOK, because you are going to be asked questions on entire BABOK. So that is something that you have to keep in mind when you are taking a training on CBAP. Then comes work history. So you put your organization name, industry, the country, then the project, and what role you played, what was the project objective. All these questions are there. And then you put your start date, end date. And it also allows you to split your time, because a lot of times we got a request from people saying that, okay, I worked on 2 projects together. So what should I do? So we generally tell them, if you can find a percentage balance between the two, that's good, because you should not take the entire experience on both the projects. That's not right. Then little bit details about your project, and then it kind of gives you the amount of effort you should be looking at. Maybe this is different for you. And it also kind of does a simple distribution of the effort for most of the BAs, but you can always change this distribution. And anytime anything is wrong, it will actually convert this into a red flag. So if you see here, because I have not filled up these details, that's why it's appearing as red. So anytime you go wrong somewhere, it will put a red. Suppose here, instead of this date, I make it as 1 second, I'll fill in a date which is not right. End date, I make it, why can't I modify it? Suppose I put it as 19 Jan 2019. Okay. So immediately it will give you a message saying rule violated, please check your data. So it kind of checks all the rules that we need to follow. A lot of people come back and tell me, Ellen, we worked with a project manager long back. We are not able to trace the person. This is something that you have to really go back and find out. Today you have LinkedIn, Facebook, and so many social media channels. So please go back and try to connect back to your project managers in the past, because their details are needed in the application. Okay. And then coming to references, we again have put what IIBA expects you to put. And then we also have given you a sample email that you can actually draft it and send it to your references. And we would request you to talk to your reference before you do all the process, because the reference should not be taken surprise by receiving a mail from IIB. So all that has been given, and what the responder has to fill in, that also we have provided. So almost everything that you need in the application process, it's there in the Excel. And then it gives you finally a recommendation. So anywhere you have a red, there is a problem which you have to work on. And then we also have taken some guidelines from the exam day page of IIBA and kind of put it here saying what you need to take care when you go to the exam center. So I will cover that as well in the presentation, but the same information is also available in the application simulator. Okay, so we will be back to our presentation. So I just showed you the simulator. Exam fees are little different if you are in different countries. So your membership will vary between 55 to 125. There's an application review fee of 125, and the exam fee is 325 if you are a member, or 450 if you are a non-member. So on the whole, if you are a member, you will spend anywhere between 505 to 575, and you will spend 575 if you are not a member. So obviously, if you are planning to give CBAP examination, it will make immense sense to be a member, because not only you get the whole thing, you also get the library access and many other benefits of becoming an IIBA member. Now coming down to how the exam would be conducted, the primary study guide, of course, is BABOK, and we all know that. You will get 120 multiple guess, scenario, and case-based questions. So let me explain a little bit about what's a scenario and what's a case. A scenario is typically a 3 to 4 line question, whereas a case is usually a long format question. So the case could have a description of about a page to page and a half, which you have to read. And usually 3 to 4 questions are asked on a single case. Of course, you have 3.5 hours, and CBAP is conducted in Prometrics Test Center. Now, where is Prometric? How do you find the right Prometric center? I can show you the Prometric site, which is on the net. So if you just go to Prometric Center, Prometric website, and you go to locate a test center. Okay, and here it will say enter the test sponsor name. So here you put IIBA, it will pick up IIBA, and then use a search. Okay, and then locate a test center. Okay, so depending on your state, suppose you are in Florida, then you say next. Okay, it says which one. So for CBAP, we'll pick up CBAP, and then we'll click next. Then whichever, suppose you take something near Florida. So I think we can zoom the map. Sorry. So let's take Florida, whichever place. You suppose Illinois, Chicago, wherever you are, you just point your location, and based on that, it will kind of take you to the right place, and it will tell you whether a center is available, not available. Suppose let's take Florida, Tampa. So let's type Tampa, and that's, I think, a better thing to do. Tampa. Search. Okay, now you see so many places in Tampa which is available. So you pick this up, and then you will get the details about the center, including the phone number. And I think Prometric has plenty of centers throughout the world. So usually it's not a challenge to pick up a center. Last year, sometime we had a little challenge in getting the right amount of slots in Prometric, but this year I haven't heard any participant coming back and telling that they did not get a desired slot. Okay, now how does the questions distribution happen? If you see here, RAD is one of the big areas and it gets 30%. And then, of course, rest all areas are fairly close to each other. It's between 15, 14, and 12, which is not significantly very different. So a lot of people ask question, Ellen, would there not be any question on techniques? Because you are not putting the techniques here. No, techniques are also asked in the exam, but they are included as part of your knowledge area. So do not think that techniques will not come or underlying competencies will not come. They will come. The only area which I heard will not come is called perspectives. That is something probably excluded from the exam scheme, and rest all are included. Now, there is also another question a lot of people ask is, will agile extension to BABOK be part of the exam? That is, to my knowledge, it is not part of the exam scheme. It's always good to read, but it's not part of the exam process. Okay, remember, you will be evaluated on each knowledge area and overall, so you need to pay attention that you do well in each of the knowledge areas. Now let's see how we can prepare for this exam and how do we succeed in our very first attempt. So usually we advise a 10 to 12 week preparation time. That's what we have seen most of our participants being able to complete CBAP in that time frame. Some of you may be able to do a little faster. Some of you may need another 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how comfortable are you with BABOK, with the question pattern, and your amount of time you can devote to prepare for CBAP. Usually our experience with most participants is they spend anywhere between 120 to 160 hours. That is what we have seen most of our participants spending in preparing for CBAP. So here I have given you a plan along with our workshop, because our workshop runs for about 4 weeks in a continuous manner. And then of course we allow people to join in the Q&A session in the subsequent months. But the main teaching happens in 4 weeks. So that's what I have kind of given a plan. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, like that. And at the end of week 4, we allow participants to take the 35 PD hours, because by that time we would have actually taught the participant 36 hours face-to-face. Because it's 4.5 hours into 8 sessions, that makes it 36 hours. And that is the time we request them to kind of fill up the application and then pay the application fees. Once you pay the application fee, exam fee, then you will get a mail from IIBA, which will allow you to schedule your test with Prometric. But then, of course, once you have done your basic preparation, we leave about 4 weeks for you to do most of the simulation tests and question bank and those kind of things. And then finally, in week 9 or 10, somewhere between that time frame, you can actually go ahead and take your certification examination. Now let me narrate some of the tips that I gathered as a CBAP, as well as most of our participants who provided us with some very useful tips on what they did to be successful. One, a lot of us really love mind maps, and this has been a constant input from many of our participants saying that, can we get some nice mind maps? So we spent some good time in preparing 2 key mind maps. One we call it as a task mind map, and one we call it as a techniques mind map. So what you are seeing in the presentation is the techniques mind map, which organizes BABOK techniques into certain kind of groups and subgroups. It is not to say that the techniques are not used anywhere else, but broadly, this is where you can understand the behavior of the techniques or strengths of the techniques. See, for example, if I kind of expand the map a little bit, go to the right, you can see, for example, in elicitation, we have clubbed the techniques along 3 groups, which BABOK does: collaboration, research, and experiment. In collaboration, again, we subdivided groups into something called group-based and individual-based. And obviously, the group-based elicitation techniques will have certain properties which are common, and individual-based techniques will have some properties which are common. So that way, you can start understanding commonalities among the techniques, which will help you in terms of applying the right technique. So usually, all group-based techniques can be applied in a fairly similar situation. Okay. And similarly, we have another mind map, which I think I should have included, but I forgot, but I can show you. It's there on my desktop. Give me a second. The task mind map is, again, quite interesting. I think it's quite big. Let me, it's so big. Okay, let me just take it from the portal. I think that's much easier way for me. Okay, so if you look at the task mind map, it kind of guides you through the entire BA activities, which activity comes first, what kind of outputs come up, and how these outputs are leveraged in the subsequent tasks. All that has been provided here. So this kind of gives you a good frame to recognize how BABOK is structured and how the inputs, outputs interact with each other. So this is what we call it as task mind map. Okay, so these mind maps are there. Then, of course, we have something called audio books, which is again a great help especially for people who commute a lot, and I trust many of us do. Like if you're living in New Jersey and working in New York, you may be spending every day between 45 minutes to 1 hour on your commute. So every day you have 2 hours of time available to you, which is during your commute. And that time you can leverage the audio books to listen to the BABOK concepts, and that could save you a lot of time from your further study. And we have included plenty of case-based questions. So I can show you how these case-based questions look like. And I think many of you would have done some kind of simulation as well. And as I was telling you, you have a complete simulation available to you. So if you just go to the last section, so for example, this simulation is available to you without any cost. So if you go here, so these are something similar to scenario-based questions, because these are 3 to 4 lines of question, and on you have 4 choices. And if you see here, we have 120 questions. I'm not sure when the case-based question will come, but let me kind of skip few questions, and that might land us in a case-based question. These are all scenario-based questions. So give me, now look at it. So this is how a case-based question may look like. So it's kind of 4 to 5 paragraphs, and then based on that, you have questions. And typically, the next question will also be based on the same case study. Maybe the bottom para will be slightly different. So, and then if you have read the case once, then you are kind of comfortable in answering 3 to 4 questions. Okay, now a lot of people ask me saying, Ellen, we have 30 tasks and 50 techniques. How do we understand the interrelationship between them? So I have one simple philosophy. I can't remember much, and I generally do not like to remember, and I think that's not a great way to learn any subject. So what I tell them is try to understand the purpose of the task. What is that the task is trying to achieve, and understand the strengths and weaknesses of techniques. And that's where the grouping also of the techniques will help you. And once you understand these two, then you can try to link saying, if I'm trying to achieve something like this, and this technique has that strength, and it's usually a natural match. That is how I apply the task technique relationship. Then how do you choose a right exam date? This is something very important, and I would trust you will take a good care. My personal suggestion is to take a day off if you can. I am not sure what's your situation with respect to leaves, but if you can take a couple of days leave, it's not a bad idea to take a couple of days leave, and so that you get a 4-day kind of a break. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then on Wednesday possibly, or Tuesday possibly, you take the test in the second half of the day. The reason why I generally avoid taking test on first half, it's mainly because if you are staying a little away from the exam center, which is a fairly good possibility, you may not be comfortable with the place. So you may run into some kind of a mental pressure in finding the test center. And understand the test is for 3.5 hours. You are expected to be in Prometric about an hour before. You might have traveled an hour. So it's almost a day job to get your exam done. So keeping it little stress-free is always helpful. And in my personal opinion, usually I don't advise people to take a test on a Saturday, because if you have worked Monday to Friday, then you are usually loaded with your day work. So Saturdays are not necessarily a great day to take up the exam, unless you have taken Thursday, Friday off. Then that's a different story. Okay, few more tips. One of the tips I always say, know your exam center prior hand, because that removes a lot of tension in your mind. 2, you have to carry 2 government issued ID proofs for yourself. Prometric folks are really strict, and which is what is good, that they maintain the integrity of the test. So be prepared, and then do not eat too much before the exam, nor be in completely empty stomach. That's not a good place, a good situation to be in. Some people also carry some amount of snacks with them, and in between the test, maybe you can take a 5-minute break if you wish to have a short break, and then eat something so that you feel better during this 4 hour of exam time. And a lot of people give this as a good tip, saying before you start the exam, go to the restroom so that you are not again feeling like going to the restroom. The other point I have heard from many participants is usually the exam starts with a little tough questions. So you may kind of feel a little pressurized when you attempt first 8-10 questions. So stay cool. Don't take that to your heart. And usually my suggestion is, if you're not getting a question, skip it in the first round. Mark it for review. Don't leave the question. Maybe you flag B or C. In case you get time, you can come back. In case you don't get time, at least you have made some choice. But do not get hung up on a particular question. That does not help, because that can eat out your time quite badly. This is what I have said, that the initial questions can be a little tougher. And then, of course, you have to watch your progress, because you just have 3.5 hours. And usually, if you're targeting 40 questions an hour, then you will have some time left for doing a final round of review. Also, be prepared for calculations. You will be given calculators. So basic calculations in terms of ROI, cost benefit, those kind of calculations you should be comfortable. Usually, I haven't heard anybody telling they got a calculation on net present value or internal rate of return, because those are complex calculations. So those questions are not necessarily doable without an Excel. In simple calculator, it may be difficult. So that's mostly what I had kept. If I remember any other tips that I would like to give you impromptu, one is prepare well. This is not an easy exam. So do not go with the mindset that you can crack it just like that. Sometimes I have heard some from my older colleagues who have good number of years of experience. They'll come and say, Ellen, we have been doing BA work for so long. So it should be a cakewalk. It is not a cakewalk. So please understand BABOK very well. Do as many questions as you can get your hands on. That always helps. And read BABOK at least 2 times thoroughly. The study guides that has been provided to you, also 2 times. At least if you do that much of effort, it should be fairly doable. But again, I think going with a winning mindset, having patience for the test, and also giving the time to the preparation. You have to find time of 100-120 hours. How you find that time is something that you have to figure out. You may have to wake up a little early, study a little late, whatever works for you. Pick up time from your weekend. If you do not put in about 100 hours of effort, I really doubt you can clear CBAP. So please take that much time, make a plan for yourself, and then work on the plan, understand, and go out and reach out to many forums today. There are plenty of forums available. We do 2 free Q&A sessions on BABOK every month. So maybe you can join them as well and ask your questions. There's no charge on those Q&A sessions, and it's free as long as we accommodate 100. We can't accommodate more than 100. But if you are among the first 100, you can always pick up questions and get it answered by one of our faculties. That's about it.
Perfect. Thank you, Ellen. There are a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Let's go back to, you just mentioned to read the BABOK guide, not just once, but maybe twice. There is a question regarding, should there be any other books that you may recommend to start studying with besides the BABOK?
Okay. Um, on UML, I think this is one part probably I missed out. In CBAP, you are expected to know a good amount of UML. So one other book I would recommend is UML for IT Business Analyst by Howard Podeswa. That's again available on IIBA library. So if you're a member, you get access to that book. I would recommend if you are weak in UML, do refer to that book. But other than these two books, I wouldn't really recommend anything else. If you are preparing well on BABOK, that should be good enough.
Perfect, thank you.
Sorry, I'd like to add also, when you're preparing, we have some great tools on our website as well that are great. There is the blueprints that we spoke about is on our website as well. So that's a great tool to use to plan out your time and to focus on the areas where, you know, the most questions will come from. We do have 5 sample questions. So these are sample questions that could be asked on a case study, on a scenario. So that's great to refer to. And also our guide to competency-based certification. What that guide is it for the 6 knowledge areas, it talks about the required competencies that you should be very well versed in. So that's a great guide to help you also plan through your study. So definitely check out our website as well.
Thank you, Melissa. That's Melissa Novielli, by the way, with IIBA.
Hi.
Maybe a question for you, Melissa. Are there any test sites in Nigeria?
We can check.
Yeah, we can check. In Nigeria, let's take a look.
One second, I think I probably moved ahead too much. Then I think I probably have to go back. I trust there must be.
Actually,
one second.
Dan, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can answer that question. There currently isn't a test center in Nigeria. So for that specific location there, we don't have a Prometric test center there at the moment.
Oh, okay.
That's Suzanne Birchie, by the way. Hi, Suzanne.
Hello.
Question, how to practice for numerical questions? I'm not quite sure. I understand, but maybe Ellen, you have an idea.
Okay. See, numericals are generally expected on the strategy analysis area, like say financial analysis. That's very much acceptable for numerics, which could be something like calculating sales volume, gross margin, profits, benefits, costs, net benefit, return on investment. These are things that can be easily computed. So such kind of questions can always be asked. That's one area where I see a good number of numerics can be asked.
Great, thank you. What would you say are the key advantages for a company for having their lead BA certified? Melissa, do you want to take that?
So the key advantages to having their CBAP certified is that they're, you know, it's a growing trend right now that organizations are doing it. You know, the BABOK guide is the leading standard right now in business analysis. Therefore, by getting certified, you're guaranteeing that your staff is up to speed with the latest knowledge, and that they are they're going to be well versed in the BABOK guide and applying those techniques to their work and to growing the organization as well. And it also, you know, CBAPs are also all, you know, they desire to continuously, so you know that when your staff gets certified that they're also going to be continuously developing their competencies, especially in order to recertify. Because once an individual becomes a CBAP, they have to recertify every 3 years, and so in that there is encouragement to develop your competencies. Ellen, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think See, lead BA is the one to whom other BAs are looking up to. So if the lead BA is certified, it automatically proves the fact that the lead BA is competent, has necessary knowledge to impart to the other BAs in the organization as well. So I would always recommend, if you are promoting, projecting somebody as a lead BA, it's good that they be qualified, if not for CBAP, at least for CCBA, depending on the experience of the BA. But having a certification with a leader is always a plus point.
Perfect. So that's a perfect lead into the next question. So for a person with 4 or more years of experience in business analysis, which certification is ideal?
How many years did you say? I didn't get it.
They said 4 plus.
I would still recommend CCBA.
Really depends. They'd have to analyze the hours. So they have to look in how many hours they've spent in the last 7 years and 10 years, and then they can make. Then I would recommend to make a decision.
And so
True.
then,
Yeah, but I think gathering more than 7,500 in less than 4 years is a very tough call. That's what would have been my personal experience.
perfect.
Okay, just 1 second. I think the closest Prometric center that you get from Nigeria is in Ghana, and that's about 255 miles, which would mean about 400 kilometers. So maybe an overnight journey. That's what I would see.
Great, thank you, Ellen. So what is the application? I know we talked a little bit about it. Melissa, what is the application process for CBAP?
So the application process is, the first thing it's to do is to create a profile on our website, which you can do absolutely for free. In your profile, that's where you can apply for membership, and you're going to see the applications to all of our certification levels. In the next step would be then to go to the CBAP, to click on the box, and to complete the 4 sections in the application. So you've got education, professional development, work history, and references. I always recommend doing, well, the education is really straightforward, to do the reference section. Actually, well, first, before you complete that section, to alert your references that they're going to be references on your application, because as soon as you add them to that section, to your application, they're going to receive an email from us with a link to an endorsement form that they need to complete. The endorsement form is very short. An example, you can find an example off our website in the certification handbook, and there's also an example there of the email that they'll receive. So once they complete this form, it's going to be automatically submitted to us, and once we receive 2 of them, then that section will be complete. And just a side note, if they don't receive this email in their inbox, please have them check their spam, their junk mail, and if they still haven't received it, please email certification@iiba.org right away. So the reference section and education, and I will also recommend doing the work history section next, and then so that as soon as you finish your professional development, if you're doing your professional development, if you already have it, then great, then you can enter that in. Once all the sections go green, you would submit your application, you pay your application fee. Immediately, you'll find out whether you're approved or selected for a random audit. Once you become approved, you have 1 year from that date in order to take and pass your exam. Within that 1 year, you have 3 attempts at the exam, each at a price. So then you can look at the Prometric schedule, you can pay for your exam fee, and schedule your exam.
Okay, just to kind of give you an idea about work history, for me, my CBAP was done quite some time back, so I'm not able to get the data in the system. But for CCBA, I can very clearly see that. And if you see here, I have entered a project name, and I, of course, worked on this project close to 8.5 years. This was one of the key products that we produced as a company. And then if you see here, I have filled in all the details, my client manager, then how many hours in different knowledge areas, and how did the total hour exceeded the requirements given for CCBA. Of course, this would have met CBAP requirement as well. Okay.
Yep, that's perfect. So just a little bit more on the application. If your two references are current, but you are no longer in contact with them, is that still valid?
Yeah, that's fine. As long as they meet the reference criteria, you know, a career manager, a client internal, external, or a CBAP, then that's fine. And you can actually see more information on the requirements for reference in our certification handbook.
Perfect, thank you. What is the required pass mark?
So this is information we actually don't make publicly available. So what you would receive when you complete your exam is that you'll receive performance indicators. So you'll see all the topics covered, all the BABOK knowledge areas covered by the exam, and you'll receive a performance indicator of either higher, comparable, or lower. And then you can use that, you know, if you pass, that's fantastic. If you have to redo the exam, you can then use that information to then help your studying and your preparation for the next attempt.
Great, thank you. So I have two questions regarding attempt. So the first is, I'm a beginner and quite nervous. What would you advise? Ellen, maybe you can answer that since how you have been.
Just repeat the question once more. What is the concern?
They just want to know what your advice is. They are a beginner and they're quite nervous about taking the CBAP exam.
Okay. I think if you do enough simulations, that should give you a fairly good idea about how are you doing with respect to timing. And we would also give you a report, which is knowledge area wise, how are you performing? And if you feel that you have been scoring anything about 80% in the exam, we would consider that you are fairly ready to take the final exam. But if you're scoring 50%, 60%, obviously that means you need a little bit more preparation. But a good preparation is key. That's what I would suggest. If you are not well prepared, obviously you will feel tough. The exam is quite tough. And of course, the exam expects you to have sound business analysis knowledge as well. So I wouldn't like you to stretch your experience to the hilt. Some people do that. They say, Ellen, I am 4.5, somehow can I do? I say, maybe you are lucky enough to cross the barrier, but have the required hours. Don't tamper around with the hours. That's not a good practice. And if you have done 5 years of proper BA work, you have understood BABOK, you have done the tests, there's nothing to worry.
Perfect. How many exam simulators are available with the course that you mentioned, Ellen?
We have 6.
Right.
6 full-length simulators.
Okay. This one's for you, Melissa. How do I schedule my exam?
So once you pay for your exam fee, you'll get an email from us with your eligibility ID number. And this eligibility ID number can also be found within your profile within your application. So then you're also going to get the link to the Prometric website. You can also find this link on our website as well under certification. If you hover over certification levels, each one of our levels has its own website. So in the CBAP, for instance, on the right-hand side, you got the quick links box, and you can see, you can actually at any time check the location and check the availability of your test center. But you can also click, if not in the email, you can click on that link, use your eligibility ID number, and schedule for your exam. And then you'll receive a confirmation from Prometric once the exam has been scheduled.
Great, thank you. Question regarding project log. So this person has not kept a project log, so it will be very difficult to get the dates, durations of projects from earlier years, especially when they were working on smaller projects. Do you have any advice for filling in the forms?
I'd like to start with that. So, and then Len can jump in if he's got anything to add. I would honestly organize the work history section by position in that situation, and then do your best to really, for that position, do your best guess estimates to how many hours you've done within each of the 6 knowledge areas. And the guide to competency-based certification is also a great tool to help you with that, because not only does it list the main competencies, the high-level competencies within each of the 6 knowledge areas, it also lists the high-level required tasks within each of the 6 knowledge areas. So then, like, if you don't have the BABOK guide, you can use this tool, look over the high-level tasks, think about your positions, and then do your best to allocate your time. And then organize your work history section by positions as opposed to projects. Other great tools also right now, and I recommend everyone to look at, is the BABOK Guide Core Standard. It's the companion. It's available for a free download, so it gives you a really great insight into the BABOK Guide.
Okay, I think for many of my participants, what I tell them, often it's possible that as a BA, we do work on multiple small projects. So start with the projects where you have spent your maximum time. Okay, so maybe you have worked on 4 major projects and 6 minor projects. So if with 4 major projects and 2 minor projects, you are able to meet the IIBA requirements, it's good enough. You don't have to break your head on those 3 minor projects which you have worked and you are finding it difficult to get the details. So focus on large projects first and then look at smaller projects.
Okay. Just a couple more questions because we're close to time. The perspectives, techniques, and underlying competency chapters are not mentioned within the exam blueprint. Do I need to study them? Melissa, I guess that's for you.
Thank you. So as Alain had mentioned, with regards to the techniques chapter, there is no questions specific to a given technique. However, techniques are referenced in the questions that specifically test the competencies expected within the knowledge area. With regards to perspectives and underlying competencies chapters, there won't be a specific exam question that tests on them, but some questions will infer an understanding of the perspectives of the underlying competencies as they relate to the knowledge area. So you still do need to know to be familiar with them.
Okay.
And what is the Endorsed Education Provider Training Program?
So what it is, it's a great program because it's a collection of courses and webinars that are assessed and validated by us so that you can be sure that these are aligned with the BABOK Guide version 3. What's great about these courses is that they automatically qualify for the professional development requirement for our certification levels and also for CDUs for recertification. Now, you're going to see in that collection that there are webinars, but those webinars only qualify for professional development for ECBA. So it's really the core for CBAP, it's really the courses that qualify for the professional development. And within those courses are also, if you're looking for professional development, then I recommend taking an exam preparation course, because not only does it hits 2 birds with 1 stone, not only does it meet the requirement, but it helps you to prepare for the exam as well. And so, sorry, our Endorsed Education Provider Training Program can be found through the Learning and Development tab. You click on Need Training, and then on the right-hand side, you're going to see a search feature that you can use to find the providers, the courses that service you, that meet your needs. Once you find a course that meets your needs, then you have to go to the training provider for cost and schedule.
Perfect. And I think we're at time. There was just one other one other aspect, Ellen, there's been a lot of requests for links that you had mentioned within the webinar, and the UML author of the book that you described. I think Prometrics, the UML author, and request a CBAP application simulator. I guess maybe what we could do is, if you provide me with the links that you are able to give me, we can add it as an extra slide to the presentation.
Sure.
And then this presentation will be posted on the IIBA website within 5 business days from today, where you can rewatch the webinar and have the presentation as well. So with that, sure. I'd like to thank you, Ellen, again for joining us today, and Melissa and Suzanne from IIBA. And if any of you have any further questions regarding any of our certifications, please visit our website at iiba.org. And if that doesn't fulfill your needs, you can contact our certification team at certification@iiba.org. And with that, thank you all for joining us, and have a lovely day.